Good afternoon. I was more hope. So Norlita's in Atlanta. I'm in New Orleans. When you're in the South and someone says good afternoon, you say. All right, y'all. Thank you.
Or you can say, hey, y'all.
I'm Jeffrey Fingerman. I was a 2003 G&O Corps member.
Yes. Hello, and I'm Norlita Moody, and I was a 2004 Atlanta Corps member.
And we are your MCs to kick us off and welcome you to the Alumni Staff Conference and in a couple days to the Educators Conference. So welcome. We want to start by sharing a little bit about what brings us to this work.
So I'm so happy to be able to stand in front of you all and just share a little bit about my personal conviction to this work. I have actually been a part of Teach for America now for about a decade, and that makes me feel really old. I was a 2004 Corps member, as I said earlier, and then I transitioned onto staff, and then I was an alumni teacher, and then I came back to staff, but my touch point with Teach for America actually started almost 20 years ago when I was a student of several Corps members in Eastern North Carolina in the mid to late 1990s. Yes. And I remember being at the School Leaders of Color Conference this past February in G&O, and I heard from Joanne Garma, who is the CEO of Ideal Schools, and she said that the students growing up in our communities don't know what they don't know. And that resonated with me so well because that was my story. I did not know what I did not know until I was in college and learned what the educational achievement gap was all about. And I just feel so fortunate and blessed to be here with you all today and I guess experience what some folks would define as being successful, given where I grew up and where I came from. And so I think a lot about like how I will amplify my impact. And my answer to that is basically that I am going to be a passionate supporter of communities in both my personal and professional life to ensure that kids who look like me and whose background mirror my own have the opportunity to be successful. So that's my personal conviction. What about you, Jeffrey?
So I come to this work because of a deeply held Fingerman family value, which is the strong belief that this country can and will live up to its promise to be the land of opportunity for all, not just some. And when I joined the Corps, my students retaught that value and belief to me 100 times over, and left me with the belief that, and the knowledge that all children will succeed when given the opportunity. And I know that there are similar feelings amongst all of us for why we do this work. And so we want to take this time over the next 2 days to think about what we want our impact to be. And I think that I want to charge you with using these next 2 days to do three things. First, define your vision for your own impact. Second, use this time to build the skills that you know you'll need to achieve that. And finally, to think about what it would look like to amplify that impact. So in G&O, we have a saying that we go hard for kids. We go hard for kids. And I know that you do as well. And I want to submit to you that the people in this room are people who can help you go harder for kids, can help you amplify your impact. And whether you're new to staff, raise your hands if you joined staff within the last year. Right. Or whether you're an old hat, as Norlita and I are, and been in this work for over a decade, I think you know that this is a room of people who can help you do that. So we're going to start today where our 2012 Corps members began. A few weeks ago or a few months ago, many of us showed them a video challenging them to think about what their impact would be as they move into alumnihood, and we're going to watch that to kick ourselves off.
Welcome to Alumnihood. Welcome to Alumnihood.
Welcome to Alumnihood.
Welcome into the community of Teach for America alumni.
Welcome to the family.
We really appreciate the work that you've put in thus far.
There's no commencement, but this is the beginning, not the end.
Thank you. Good morning, Sierra. I think what was going through my mind as I was entering alumnihood was, how am I going to continue to make the kind of impact that I saw in my classroom in, my future? Today is tomorrow. Education is a completely transformative thing for my life. My lifelong kind of calling and commitment didn't just start with Teach for America, but Teach for America absolutely helped give me the tools to be the leader that I am today in this movement.
After the Corps, I went to law school, really with this idea that I wanted to use my legal degree to have a bigger impact on education. I am the founder and CEO of a new startup organization called Camelback Ventures, which invests in early stage social entrepreneurs of color. Anything that I was thinking about in my career, there was someone at Teach for America I could reach out to.
There you go, FDR delivered fireside chats.
This year is my 10th year teaching, and to be quite honest, I can't imagine working anywhere else but a school.
Sure, then you could put JFK.
Teach for America just mostly has offered me opportunities, professional development, and just like a wealth of resources and connections, both school and non-school related.
I personally feel grateful that you all answered the call to want to be part of change and want to be a change agent and chose Teach for America as your pathway. And you've learned a lot now, and you have so many insights and a sense of deep responsibility to figure out what you do with that.
Congratulations on finishing your 2 years in the Corps. Remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Keep choosing the road less traveled, because that will make all the difference.
So a lot of us just shared that video with our core members, now alums. And when I think about the 37,000 of us across the country, the 860 of us in New Orleans, I feel a tremendous sense of responsibility to do everything I can to help them have the impact that I know they can have. And I know you do as well, and that's what our time together will be about.
Awesome. And so if you're like me, you're feeling all warm and fuzzy inside after seeing 37,000 alums and knowing that each and every person in this room is actually supporting a number of those 37,000 folks. So we're now going to spend some time just reflecting on some questions to ourselves. So I'm going to encourage you all to just take some time to reflect within yourself, jot down your thoughts here, take a few minutes to reflect on the questions that are right here on the screen. About having an impact and getting us closer to one day. So go ahead and wrap up your thoughts. Dot that last I, cross that last T, put a period at the end. so now we're going to take a few minutes to share in pairs at your tables. Sit up here. So share your reflections that you just jotted down in pairs at your tables. You also were asked to bring a picture to represent how you're looking to amplify your impact this year as part of your pre-work. So you want to go ahead and take that out and share that with your pairs at your table as well. So we're going to give you a few minutes to do that.
Right, that's what I mean.
Right. She in her own conversation.
She's probably just glad it's up and running.
Exactly.
That nothing else can go wrong now that it's started.
Right. right, take about 2 more minutes. We did ask yesterday how many of those And then there, I mean, think about how many regions like actually opt into this year. Because I talked to EJ last week, and she was like, I'm so glad I won that. I was like, wait, you're not All right, so I take it that you all have had some pretty amazing conversations. Whoa. So I hope you all had some great conversations with your peers and at your tables. At this time, we're gonna spend another few minutes just reflecting and also making some commitments to ourselves. So take a look at the question on the screen. Think about it for a few minutes and write down some commitments that you'd like to make. All right, so you've had some time to reflect, share, reflect some more, and make some commitments to yourselves that I'm really hoping that you all will stand by and keep. We're entering these next few days, and we're gonna really be exploring how to amplify our impact. So as we're going through these days, I wanna encourage you all to really think about how to infuse this conference and where you are now, and thinking about innovative thoughts and lessons learned and best practices that you're picking up from your tracks and from your fellow alumni staff members as you're thinking about how you want to amplify your impact in your regions when you return home. So as you keep all of those things in mind, I want to bring up our fearless leader, Mrs. Andrea Pursley, to share some reflections in the state of our union.
I was promised it would be okay to give this speech sitting down. I hope you'll be patient with me. So thank you so much, Norledia and Jeffrey. If anybody calls to ask for nominations for who should MC the Oscars, I know who I'll pick. Thank you also to the Conference Planning Committee. Would you all raise your hands? Yay. And thank you to everybody who worked so hard leading up to today. And a special thank you to you, Stacy Johnson. Great. Who envisioned a new kind of conference with learning tracks in which everyone gets to choose which area you want to grow and develop. And if the Phoenix office kitchen is a good thermometer, I think people are excited about it. So go Phoenix. And thank you so much to all of you for being here and for prioritizing your own learning and community across now our nearly 50 regions. So I don't know about you all, but I think this space is pretty beautiful. And we're incredibly fortunate to be able to spend the next 2 or 4 days here. Almost a year ago, we knew that we would be co-hosting the Regional Alumni Affairs Conference and the Educators Conference. And we asked regions to apply to be the hosts. We got lots of applications, and we chose Las Vegas for lots of reasons. Our Las Vegas region is easy for alumni educators to get to, certainly from all over the Southwest, but there seems to be some sort of deal with maybe the Las Vegas gaming community and flights that makes it easier for our alumni educators and particularly teachers to get here, which is nice. And also, you know, Las Vegas is really different than Detroit, where we were last year. Different opportunities, different challenges, different community. We want to make sure that we're going to different places and learning different things. And finally, Las Vegas is celebrating their 10th anniversary as a region. They'll be having that celebration on Friday night. And hosting this conference and the Educators Conference was a big part of that celebration for them. So they are very excited. You'll note that we are not on the Strip. This is intentional. We wanted to come to Las Vegas and host a conference in a great learning environment while also celebrating on Thursday night, which we'll do in a Las Vegas community center. This place is gorgeous. It's also really affordable compared to the market generally. We're staying here for the duration of the week in this nice hotel because we needed to book a certain number of rooms to get the deal we got on this conference space. So even at that, our rooms are well under per diem. We're saving a lot by being here in Vegas, but if you look around you, it just doesn't really quite look or feel like it, but we really are. So I think context for where you are sometimes helps, and I hope that this context will give you permission to just enjoy being here together this week. So Stacy asked me to give a State of the Union, and you all know if Stacy asks you something, you don't say no. So after negotiating for this chair, I promised her I would do my best. If I get out of breath, I'm sorry, I'll try to recover. So getting started, there are so many reasons that I feel optimistic that we are gonna have the opportunity to see the day when every child has the opportunity to attain an excellent education in our lifetime. I feel more optimistic about seeing that day today than I did 1 year ago. And I want to share 3 reasons why and elaborate on them. The first is the leadership of individual alumni. The second is growing regional momentum across the country. And the third is the power of partnership between our national team and regions in our new operating model. So getting started, individual alumni stories, I do want to be clear up front that I don't think that Teach for America alumni are the entire solution to all of our nation's problems. In fact, I think in isolation, we are bound to fail. But I believe that Teach for America, and especially our alumni, play a very important role, a sustained role, in accelerating the path between today and educational equity. And I take that role seriously, and therefore I take the role of each of us in this room in supporting and empowering our alumni very seriously. You all know this, but just to ground ourselves, according to our last survey, 86% of alumni work full-time in education or with low-income communities. I don't know about you all, but I am reading these blogs every day that describe us all as lawyers. 4% of our alumni are lawyers, and there's nothing wrong with being a lawyer. In fact, there are some perfectly wonderful lawyers out there. And many of our alumni who I meet are thinking about how to leverage law for justice. Nonetheless, the point is there is this pervasive idea out there that core members teach for 2 years and alumni commit for the rest of their lives to pursuing personal wealth. So, you know, maybe this is just the story that makes sense when people are talking to themselves about this crazy idea of Teach for America that started now nearly 25 years ago. But it actually isn't the real story at all. The story of our alumni is a story of courageous persistence, long-term personal commitment to kids and families, and a deep, deep desire to see educational equity live and breathe in America. And I hear stories of this incredible courage, persistence, commitment, and deep desire to build a different future every day. Yesterday, I was reading the draft of our summer issue of One Day magazine. And as I read, as usual, I read a bunch of new individual stories that just blow my mind. Chanel Hardy, DC 99. Senior Vice President at the National Urban League, is working to ensure equal voting rights. No small task. She says this work requires fortitude. I believe her. Toby Shepard, New York City, 2007, has just launched an organization called Providence Talks in Rhode Island, which utilizes technology to monitor the number of words that 2 to 4-year-olds hear and speak, and then to use that data to coach parents. It's like a word pedometer, apparently. So I am simultaneously inspired to buy said word pedometers for my 2 and 4-year-old children and to monitor my husband. And also by what an innovation this is. Bringing together technology, assuming the best in all of the people playing a role in the lives of our smallest children, and working to close what is referred to as the 30 million word gap within the first 5 years of a child's life. Kevin Coronet, LA, 2007, a West Point graduate, an Iraq War veteran, teacher of 7 years, has launched CrossFit Kids, in place of a typical PE program at his school. And as of last spring, 82% of his students say this is their #1 favorite class. I think it would have been mine too, although it's hard to imagine at the moment. Katie Amon from Eastern North Carolina, 2009, is leading a music school in one of the very most rural parts of Eastern North Carolina. And she's making it affordable to anyone who wants to participate. Kids, adults, including her 78-year-old piano student. She's also an artist and has given us 7 pieces for our art auction tonight. Ashley Fox, Memphis, 2010. She took a year off of teaching to found a publishing company with a focus on authors and characters of color. And she has written 2 books herself in the last year. In 2013, 3,200 children's books were published in America. 93 had African American characters. Ashley is changing this. So this is just a sampling, and there are way more stories, even in this one issue. But the point is that I hadn't actually heard of any of these people until I read my magazine last night. And this is an experience that I have come to expect every day, being in this work, working with our alumni. I've been also, in addition to reading my magazine last night and discovering new stories, I've also been blown away by a couple of specific groups of alumni. Alumni sacrificing everything, putting themselves on the line in 2 very specific ways. Our social entrepreneurs and people running for elected office. So we have more alumni eating ramen, sleeping on couches, and pursuing their big ideas to end educational inequity than you probably realize as social entrepreneurs, about 200. I'll tell you about one you may not have heard of. His name is Kirk Johnson. Kirk runs Sounds Academy in Phoenix, Arizona. It stands for Students Opening Up New Doors with Strings. Kirk was a 2007 Phoenix alum And I had the pleasure of meeting him on his college campus when he was finishing his master's degree in viola performance at Indiana University, one of the toughest music schools in America. He came to Phoenix, and it was like Mr. Holland's Opus. 2 schools over from where I had taught, in a building that hadn't had a music teacher for 30 years. He spent his first 2 weeks clearing out the debris and getting rid of critters who had been living in this music room. This guy, I'm telling you, he could do anything. He could do anything. And you know what? He is launching this organization while working on the side. He has yet to pay himself a year in because kids in Phoenix don't have access to music education. On elected office, last year 18 Lee members ran for office and 15 won. This year we anticipate 80 Lee members running for office, including several in my home community. I'm going to tell you about 2. Reggie Boulding, a 2008 Phoenix alum, is running for the state legislature after having lost the same race last time. And I think it takes a really special kind of courage to get right back up and do it again, and a special kind of reflection to figure out how to do it better and quickly. This guy, he's an incredible person, one who I would trust to represent me, my family, the community that I love, and he's acting courageously and selflessly, and he's winning in the polls. Stephanie Para, who is not an alum, but who's sitting right there and is on our team, and I've had the privilege of knowing well now for a couple of years, decided after going to the Latino Summit last year that she would run for office. She picked just about the most controversial and difficult school board in our city. And I suggested maybe she try an easier one, actually, if I'm being honest. And you know what? She's scared away the opposition, and she's running unopposed. Courageous risk takers, everyday heroes, people you're not reading about in the New York Times, but who make you proud to sit in this room. People who make you believe we're going to get there. Of course, this is the point of celebrating our award winners at the Educators Conference, to give our whole community role models, inspiration, real people achieving uncommon goals, true change. Our Alumni Excellence in Teaching Award winners, our Peter Jennings Award winners and finalists, our Social Innovation Award winners. Since most of y'all are going to hear from them on Thursday, and if not, you can watch the celebration live online, I've been counseled to shorten this section. So I'm not going to talk about Craig Brandenburg, Mississippi First, or Education Insight, but I really wanted to. But I couldn't bring myself to cut Kathy Hollowell-Mackle, so I'm going to talk about her anyway. One of our Alumni Excellence in Teaching Award winners, you may have heard of her. She was also the DCPS Teacher of the Year. She also was celebrated at President Obama's State of the Union address. But I don't want to talk about her awards. I want to talk about this woman's classroom. And not as an educator, but as a parent. Watching the videos of her teaching over and over again, and as many as I could get my hands on, I would give anything to put my son Eddie in her classroom next year. Her warmth, caring, love, and high expectations, I'd give anything. I actually entertained a conversation about moving to Washington, D.C. for a few minutes, and I'm not kidding. So obviously, as I'm demonstrating here, I could go on potentially forever. I wake up every day and discover more people, learn the stories of people who are laying it on the line for kids every day. The individual stories and commitment within this community of which we are a part give us a lot to be optimistic about. If we do not grow the size of our corps at all over the next 5 years nationally, we keep it the same size, 5 years from now, there will be 64,500 alumni of Teach for America. That's 64,500 individuals with stories like the ones that I just told. And I think that's something to be optimistic about too. And it's fast, it's soon. Our flywheel is turning, and the wave of committed, persistent individuals who believe in all children coming out of the Teach for America core experience is growing rapidly. The second thing that gives me optimism is regional momentum. So for those of you who are staying on for the Educators Conference, I'm really excited for you to learn more, both about Tennessee and Washington, D.C. Anybody here from either of those places? I thought so. Hi. And the massive changes in student outcomes over the last year. And the commitment, the work, the strategy that it's taken to see that happen over the last couple of years. You'll hear from alumni Kaya Henderson, the Chancellor of DC Public Schools, and Kevin Huffman, the Commissioner of Education for the state of Tennessee. You'll hear their pride in the people who have worked so hard at every level, kids, families, schools, teachers, administration, and you'll also hear how very unsatisfied they are with this progress, and that to them, this is just the beginning. Since we're taking the time to learn from them in a case study plenary through Ed Talks, and we'll hear from them as our Peter Jennings Award winners on Thursday night, I wanted to talk about a few other places where change is happening. Places where the results year over year aren't fundamentally different yet, but where progress is being made nonetheless. And the first place I want to talk about is Alabama, which I think is such an interesting and instructive example of possibility, in some ways with a blank canvas to design strategies that fit with the community possibilities throughout the state. Where's Khadijah? Hi. I was a little late writing my speech, so this is all going to be a surprise to you. So Khadijah is the ED in Alabama and led our TLD program for years before that, and is from Alabama. So she's here with us this week, which I'm really excited about. I had the chance to visit Alabama with Elizabeth Zimmerman right before Khadijah started for 3 days. And I read their vision, and I learned a few things. Alabama was a young Teach for America region without much experience with alumni yet. Alabama community members had worked really hard to get Teach for America to come to Alabama, which I partially knew because I had sort of randomly, long side story, lived in Alabama in 2008, and the new site development team kept sending community members to talk to me. I was on the TLD team. I had no authority whatsoever in the decision, but I wound up talking to all of these community members, and boy, were they enthusiastic to get Teach for America to Alabama. I also knew that Alabama was front and center in the civil rights movement, but has one of the most segregated school systems in America. When my brother-in-law, who is white, moved to Alabama for his senior year of high school and went to enroll in the big high school in the neighborhood where my mother and father-in-law had just rented a house, he was told that school wasn't for him. He wasn't the right color for it. That was 3 years ago. I wasn't surprised when one of the districts that we visited, Huntsville, shared that they were under federal desegregation orders. The real story of these 3 days, though, is the story of a core and a few deeply committed alumni who love Alabama, and specifically imagine a different, more equitable Alabama, racially, between rural and urban parts of the state, and with other higher performing states in the United States. All of which I think is, frankly, a huge testament to Khadijah. This doesn't just happen. This core learned to love Alabama, to see themselves quickly as stakeholders in her future. We did a couple of town halls, one just outside of Greensboro, Alabama, which is in a rural region called the Black Belt. In the Black Belt conversation, about 20 core members and early alumni came out, and what they had to say was different than what I expected. And I had to check my own bias. You know, I personally don't want to live in a rural community. I grew up in a rural community, and I really like now living in a city. These core members, these alumni, they had fallen in love with their community, mostly because of their kids. And they were ready, they were willing to put down roots and spend a decade working in that community. 200 miles from the nearest Walmart. Is that right, Khadijah, or did I get the miles wrong? It's right? Okay, good. 200 miles from the nearest Walmart. Because they saw the potential. And what they didn't see was a path for themselves to lead, the learning and development that they would need to be successful in roles, in major roles of change, in roles like school leader, which of course in a rural community, you're sort of like the school leader, the mayor, the town council, wrapped up all in one. One core member in that conversation now is in cohort 2 of our Rural School Leadership Academy, and I could not be more happy about that. But it's clear that we have a lot to do, all of us committed to rural communities, to help solve the problem of people willing, eager, and committed who can't find the learning and development they need to believe they could be successful community leaders long term. But the mere fact that so many willing, eager, and committed people exist is myth-breaking to me and gives me immense optimism. So the foundations are in place. The problems are clear. Core members and early alumni seem to be making a significant impact in classrooms. They love their kids and community. They aspire for a stronger future, to be community stakeholders who fight on the ground for the opportunities their students deserve. None of these things is a given. There are foundations ripe to build programs, more partnerships, and bridges between today and those shared aspirations that are deeply held within our community. The second example is at a stage I would call ripe for massive breakthrough. I made that up last night. It's not like part of social change theory, but it was the best I could do. And that community is right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. As I mentioned earlier, this week marks the 10th anniversary of the Las Vegas Teach for America region. For 10 years, core members have been working really hard in classrooms here. And for a lot of that time, while those individual efforts have meant a lot, there's also been a real sense of sort of hopelessness, like the system couldn't change here. It just might not be possible here. Until recently, our core has been relatively small, in the 5th largest district in the United States, a district that at times has had the most profound teacher shortage in the country, in a state with among the lowest per pupil funding, the least higher education options, and the lowest academic performance. That's all changing. Over the last 2 years, 2 alumni have been elected to the State Board of Education, Allison Serafin and Alexis Gonzalez-Black. Alexis is going to be joining several tracks this week, and she's also moderating the Friday panel, so I hope that many of you will have the chance to meet her. Since taking office, these 2 women, alongside a coalition of other community members who want to see a change in Nevada, have made some pretty fundamental policy shifts. Things that were not in place 2 years ago that are now. Every junior in the state of Nevada has access to the ACT test. That was never the case before. More access to full-day kindergarten, ELL resources and rights in a state serving a large ELL population. These are big changes in the landscape in a short period of time. Other alumni have decided, and I'm quoting Victor here, that by hook or by crook, I'm not sure what that means, but it seems really good, things have to change. You'll meet students this week who are a part of a first-of-its-kind college access program founded by an alum, Erica Mosca, a 2008 Vegas alum, who has also played a big role planning for this week, and her kids are actually coming out to talk with all of us at Friday's lunch plenary session. So I had the chance to visit Vegas with Victor just over a year ago, and we did a town hall with alumni. And I have to say, it was one of the toughest town halls with alumni I've ever done. You know, they were just as committed to their kids and their roles as any of us, but they did not see a bright future, and they were clear on that point. And it is really exciting to see that changing. Victor and his Las Vegas team have worked really hard to get this event here, really hard. They made videos of themselves singing, text messages, all to back up a very strong application. And they see this week as a really huge part of their strategy to inspire belief and persistence here in Las Vegas. I know you're all going to be focused on your local alumni while you're here, and you should be, but please also make a point of saying hi, welcoming, and just saying you know what's happening and how much hope there is here in Las Vegas to the core members, alumni, and community members who will be joining us here. So lastly, breakthroughs are not always linear. So those of you on the alumni culture track and the collective track will be looking at some data, having some conversations about the history of social movements and what people who know what they're talking about actually say about the history of social movements. And one of the things that you'll see is that change is not always linear. It isn't always predictable. One thing that is common is the conditions, the foundations have to be in place for social change to be possible. But there isn't a recipe, 7 years of this, 8 years of that, 4 years of this, voila, social change. Nope, one of the things that the social change theorists talk about is trigger events, events that lead to breakthroughs quickly. So one example that I think may prove to be a real trigger event over this last year is in Atlanta. 4 Lee members ran for school board, and 4 Lee members won. In 2013, each of the 9 seats on the Atlanta Board of Education was up for election, offering the city a chance for a fresh start. 4 of the candidates were TFA alumni. Ishe Collins, Metro Atlanta 02, now represents a Southeast Atlanta district, while Courtney English, Metro Atlanta 07, Jason Estevez, Houston 05, and Matt Westmoreland, Metro Atlanta 2010, secured all 3 of the board's citywide seats. Matt, Ishe, and Courtney all went to Atlanta Public Schools as kids. They are now leading change in that district. Restoring faith that APS can work for our kids will be a huge hurdle, and we can't do it alone, English says. We're going to need the community to stand up in a powerful way to help make it happen. Of course, this was all in the wake of the July 2011 Atlanta Public Schools cheating scandal. It's also a breakthrough in a district where it has been virtually impossible for a decade for alumni to take on leadership roles at the school or district levels. And last week, alumnus David Jernigan, Atlanta 2000, and former ED of KIPP Atlanta, was named deputy superintendent. This may be the beginning of opening up new opportunities to lead to committed individuals willing to do the work who believe in Atlanta. So I ask you, what are the possible trigger events in your community? Is it a breakthrough in alumni teacher leadership? Is it launching and empowering the collective locally? Is it teaching core members and alumni how to think like innovators, how to solve the unsolvable problems, how to come up with solutions to the things that have been holding your community back the longest? Is it sourcing for a state commissioner or a district superintendent who believes in the potential of every kid in your community? Is it building the school leadership pipeline that will help to keep and attract talent and ultimately empower people to lead transformational schools? In our new operating model, these are all your calls, tough calls, calls that require a great deal of wisdom, data, study, and knowing your community and your alumni well. Which leads me to the third thing that's giving me optimism. 3rd of 3. Stacy said 45 minutes. I promise you I'm gonna be a little shorter than that. Stay with me. So the power of partnership in our new operating model. Sometimes change can be hard. And changing the way an entire organization operates isn't easy. And there have been moments that have not been smooth. And everything we did before wasn't wrong. But I'm convinced, I'm certain, that we were at or darn near the end of how far a tightly, centrally managed organizational structure could get us. For those of you who are new, let me try to break down some of this jargon. So 3 years ago, regents, DAAs, EDs, folks sitting in your position were required to set 11 alumni impact goals, which rolled up centrally, and you were held accountable to by the national alumni team. Now, the part of me that likes clarity and systems a lot likes this model. But there's a bigger part of me, the part that believes that community change is individual, unique, and can only be driven by the vision of that community. That part of me recognizes the limitations of this model and celebrates the strategic freedom for regions and communities to align your strategies, your goals, to your unique visions. So that's nice, Andrea. What do you mean? Well, I'm going to give it a shot here. I mean that we're going to share some key things across the country. Each of you in your regions will choose where to focus your efforts when it comes to supporting alumni impact. We'll share things like our data system, TFACT, and the National Alumni Survey. We'll share a common measure of alumni involvement. We'll share what we learn nationally in regions so that we don't get us stuck in a cycle of reinventing the wheel 48 times over and over and over again. You'll decide locally where to focus your efforts. The former ED in me just gets chills thinking about the possibility of this strategic freedom and then simultaneously thinks, wow, that's a pretty big responsibility. So you remember earlier today when I said I loved clarity like 1 minute ago? Well, I do. And then in the gray middle of the change process, this is admittedly not my favorite place to be. But what I see on the other side of it, frankly, is just glorious. Everyone plays a critically important role. Those roles formalize into a crystal clarity that we've never had in a matrixized organization. I will attempt here to paint a picture of the glory I'm foreseeing. Stick with me. So regions are going to be best positioned and take ownership of the following sets of work. Building relationships with your local alumni. No one else can do that. Moving alumni to action locally, using our alumni involvement measure and definition. Building and executing local human capital strategies that line up with your regional visions, with your intended trigger points. Innovating new strategies and sharing what you learn across all regions. This is a demanding set of work, requiring sophisticated leadership, strategy, and deep, deep humanity. It is not possible to do this well without strong local alumni teams. It is not possible to do this well without you. Our national team is best positioned to take ownership of the following sets of work. Maintaining our national data to produce shared insights and strategy, running centrally targeted alumni fellowships and awards that meet multi-regional needs, things like our School Systems Leaders Fellowship, the Rural School Leadership Academy, our Social Innovation Award, the Alumni Excellence in Teaching Award, etc. To share narrative, insight, and learning across our alumni community through events like the one this week, and through digital content and projects, things like the Continuing Your Impact site that 3,000 of our 5,000 second-year core members used this spring to figure out what to do for the next 60 years. And then running a world-class core values-aligned one-day magazine that inspires and provokes thought throughout our community in America, and finally offering coaching options to regions that best meet their needs. So one complexity in all of this in my mind that I do scratch my head over is that alumni move 4 to 5 times, actually, over the course of their lives, we think, based on the alumni migration pattern data we've looked at. And no, we don't think they're birds, but they move a lot. And so they expect to have, a relationship with Teach for America locally and a relationship with Teach for America nationally. And it's important to provide them with the tools to navigate both. And that's something we're giving a lot of thought to. So I'm not sure if I succeeded here in trying to share what I see. A future where we all work together in ways that are clear, easy, efficient. A future where multi-regional needs meet central solution and regional needs meet regional solutions. And a future in which we can make rapid progress together, efficiently and effectively. And that is really exciting, and I think we have an opportunity to live into that idea together this week. So, given all of these things that give me optimism, and you can tell I am actually very truly optimistic about each of these things, what could possibly stand in our way? Is progress inevitable? I think no. So transformational change is about every kid, every time. And while there's traction all over the place, and we can point to examples and trends that are going in the right direction for kids, it is about every kid, every family, every time. 16 million children are growing up in poverty, and far, far too many of them are running toward promise on tightropes. Tightropes that don't have nets underneath them when a child might fall from a path to promise. And every time a child falls, it is an unspeakable loss. A loss for that child, their family, their community, for every single person fighting for justice, including all of us here in this room. Kids are not blips on a graph somewhere. They are human beings. And it's not okay. It's not fine. Our alumni, the vast majority of whom are working in education or with low-income communities full-time, they feel these losses acutely, personally. We're talking about kids we love, kids they love, you and I. And for some of us, these are kids in our own families, facing institutionalized low expectations, racism, the world explaining away educations that we do not accept as okay. It can be draining. It can be soul-crushing at times. And for our alumni, especially the 11,000 of them who work full-time as classroom teachers. This is their lives. At a moment in our country when educators are underappreciated and our alumni are hearing messages that challenge their commitment, that challenge their persistence, and ask them to reconsider whether it is even right to be in this fight. PowerPoints about change in the education ecosystem cannot heal that, cannot change that. Persistence, staying power, commitment, endurance may not be enough in the face of all of this heartbreak. Our alumni themselves need inspiration. They need to believe that we can see one day. They need the stories, the experiences, the relationships that we all need to pick ourselves back up and fight another day. They tell us that they need development to grow in their effectiveness in their chosen roles. They tell us that they need a community of support. They need to be part of something bigger than their each and every day to continue moving forward. Well, we hear them. We're listening. So what should we do? What should we commit to this next year? We are not 1 year away from educational excellence and equity in America. But I think that we can see real traction, real foundational progress this year. And I believe the people in this room, all of us, have really important roles to play. And I will leave you with 2 charges to amplify our impact this year. The first is to learn in our learning year. We have named FY15 organizationally a learning year in our new operating model, and I think, frankly, we're going to be building new muscles and new skills for many years to come. In a world where everything is urgent, and it is, sometimes it's hard to value the process of learning, to give yourself permission to take time to learn. But let me tell you something, our jobs are very hard, and it is incumbent on all of us to learn continuously about change in education ecosystems broadly, to learn from case studies of change, to learn the skills to facilitate learning, to build partnerships, to use data wisely and make strategic decisions. This is a really, really big, heavy toolkit, and it's not going to be built overnight. We each need to invest in building it for ourselves, in learning, and taking the time to grow ourselves so that we can support alumni to make the impact they want to make already, so that they can make the impact they want to make already on kids. That is a huge responsibility, and it requires both staying power in all of us and finding a way to take joy in learning under pressure. My second charge is to take alumni involvement and run with it. Our alumni culture results are low and have dropped significantly. One of the clearest things that we've learned from the analysis of literally mountains of data with the help of people who are experts and do this for a living is that our alumni are craving community, relationships with you, with each other, with the communities in which they work. They want to be useful. They are saying to us, please use me. They want to be helped so that they can better deliver on their promises to kids and communities. And they're saying to us, please help me. Changing this, delivering on these strong requests from our alumni, it does fit into alumni involvement, and this is an opportunity for all of us to innovate, to learn from one another, and to learn together. So let's invent it together. Of course, we're set up to do both of these things this week. Over the next 2 days, you'll be learning and contributing in the learning track of your choice. And for those of you who are staying, Thursday and Friday, we'll be investing in the professional development, inspiration, and community of over 1,000 people. So thank you for sticking with me. I know it's hard to stick with me anyway, and a seated pregnant version of me is even harder, so I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to an awesome 2 days together. It's great to see so many returning faces, new faces, and now I have the opportunity to turn it back over to Stacy to move us forward in our learning together. Thanks, Stacy.
How's everyone doing? Thank you so much, Andrea, Norledia, and Jeffrey, for that incredible opening. It was so powerful to see, or to start the afternoon with our collective team reflecting together on the impact we stand to make in this next year. I had the opportunity to talk to one of my colleagues, Robert Kelty, who I just met in person while we were sharing on our impact picture, and he so thoughtfully talked about his son as part of his impact picture and as one of the North Stars that's going to direct him in this next year. So I just want to encourage you to keep your picture in mind and to keep the picture of your colleagues in your mind as well as you go throughout the next few days. I think the vision that we set for ourselves is so incredibly important, and it's so nice to hear about your visions in person and not on a WebEx. So on that note, I just want to keep the ball rolling and kick off our 2014 staff conference with a few logistical notes because I hear that's what I do best. So we are going to start with some participant commitments. And I know we talked a lot about what we are going to commit to personally with Norledia and Jeffrey. And I just want to also set some shared commitments to ensure that everyone in this room has a worthwhile experience throughout the next 2 days. So we are going to ask you to be courageous. Challenge yourself to err on the side of sharing thoughts or pushing yourself to think differently. Take risks. You are in small working groups for the next day and a half. You've selected a track that you are really excited about heading into, and this time is really about you and your work and the work of your colleagues. So be courageous and take risks in your small environments together. On that note, we also want you to be curious. Over the course of the next 2 days together, we have a lot of opportunities for you to get to know one another and to learn from experts as well as each other. So take advantage of this time together and really hear those stories that exist from the unique perspective and lens we're all bringing to this work. We want to remind you to do your best to minimize distractions. So whether it's an urgent phone call from home or maybe a red X email that's popping up in your inbox, use your best judgment to step out of your track and deal with things as they come up. But we also ask that you prioritize this rare time that we have together as colleagues. And last but certainly not least, have fun, get inspired, and inspire others. I have been looking forward to these 2 days for many, many months, and I know all of you have been as well. So really live it up, maximize your time together, talk to lots of people in the hotel. We're in Vegas, so enjoy it. I'm one of those people who really just loves to know what the big picture is about, where we're going, when I'm eating, all that good stuff. So I'm going to walk you through the agenda right now. We know it's been a hefty travel day for all of you, and we are so thankful that many of you have traveled across the country. Some of you got on really early flights this morning. So thank you. We are so, so glad you're here. We also want to feed you and give you a little coffee break next, because I'm sure many of us could use it after being on flights this morning. So once we're done in this session, right outside the doors where you checked in, there will be a little powerhouse smoothie so you can power through your afternoon. So grab a snack and then you'll head off to your track sessions. From 2:30 until 4:15, we'll be learning in our tracks. And if you haven't had the opportunity to check in yet, no worries. We have some helpful national staff members who are going to check you in and make sure you know where the room is for your track. You will be in the same track rooms for today and tomorrow, so just once you find your room, you're all set. After track sessions, we're going to meet in the foyer, which again is right outside these doors, for our Innovations Fair and Alumni Art Reception. And if I can have a favorite session, it might be this session. So at this time, we're going to have a photo booth set up, 2 cash bars, 6 regional innovations for you to wander to, and a silent art auction featuring the beautiful artwork of our talented alumni. So I hope everyone can consider bidding a piece of art, regardless as to whether or not you actually have your cash or checkbook on you. We'll arrange payment post-conference, and we'll also arrange to have art shipped to you in case you can't take it as a carry-on on your way home. So really enjoy that reception together, mingle, meet new people. There's a lot of new faces in the room, as well as some old friends that I'm happy to see. So that hour is really for you to just meet and learn from your colleagues and have a little fun, or a lot of fun. And then after the reception, we're going to return to this ballroom for dinner. When you checked in, you got a table number. It's okay if you're not sitting at the correct table right now. However, you'll want to make sure you're sitting at the right table for dinner, just so we can help our friendly hotel staff accommodate all of our dietary restrictions. We want to make sure we get our vegetarians and vegans and other food considerations taken care of. So just head to your assigned seating for dinner, and then we'll enjoy some musical entertainment together. I think that's it. A few other logistical notes. You heard about those awesome core value stickers when you checked in. So those are for you to recognize your colleagues and give them a sticker every time you see someone exemplifying one of the core values. And the goal is to have no stickers remaining by the end of the day tomorrow, so make sure you pass out your stickers. And then again, if you need help, if you're not sure what track you're going to, where the room is, the folks at the registration desks are really helpful, and we'll make sure to get you where you are going. And with that, we are going to dismiss everyone in just a second. You have some time to transition. Track sessions will start promptly at 2:30. I suggest that you grab your smoothie, say hi to a few people, and head right to your track session room, so that way you can mingle and get to know the folks in your track. So don't wander off too far. Head right to your track session rooms. And all of the rooms are located, are up on the screen, and are located pretty closely to the foyer, so you should be able to find them quickly. And with that, we are officially kicked off. Enjoy your 2014 Alumni Affairs Staff Conference.